and based on what you start with, like you end up with a rhyme. And for example, if you did rhymes, your final line ends on Shakespeare, style ends on Vogue, his laugh ends on moose, and then based on that, you have three other options that branches into where you can like pick a line that's loose, refuse, goose. With Vogue, it's rogue, pirogue, dogue. With Shakespeare, dare, clear, fair. And what I'm thinking is that either way, like these rhymes in the beginning will sort of like intertwine with each other either way. So it doesn't really matter which one you pick at first. It's just more that you get the sense that you're building this up on your own. To give that sort of illusion, I think. Because if you select like three options for every option you pick, it just becomes too much, I think.
Right. I mean, okay. You could also do something easier, which, because one thing is that obviously people are lazy, and that what you could try is you could give them choices in terms of general intention. So at the most basic point, for example, when I know this won't be complex enough for you, Jacob, but just in a sort of like just letting me sort of dumb down your brilliant idea. So what you could do is, what you said was the thing that would really screw him up is that you would suddenly start complimenting him. And so you could, so there's a great choice right there is, attack or compliment. And then because you've come up with a way that choice is nicely sort of non-obvious way to beat him. And so then if it was a simple, I know this would be too simple, but if you made it as simple as choose whether to attack him or choose whether to compliment him, then all the nitty gritty of what it's going to rhyme with what and so on, the user doesn't need to worry about that. So just a basic intention, and then you could have some, you could have, I could imagine quite a nice choice thing where you've got a number of keywords. And so then it becomes almost seeing how the person who wrote the rap for the game, how clever they are in integrating a word like Shakespeare or Vogue into the rap battle. So there you're giving people always one of the tricks with interactivity, and this applies to games as well, even though games are capable of a lot more complexity. But always what you're trying to do is give the impression of infinite choice, but with doing as little actual choice as necessary, and also give the impression of kind of vast flexibility, but without forcing the user to actually work very hard, because usually they don't want to. So do you see what I mean? So in terms of, rather than forcing the user to do all sorts of nitty gritty stuff, choose a general direction, a general tone, and then and then some nice little details that make you feel like I'm doing this really, I'm making it mine. That might, but cool. I mean, that could be an interesting idea. And especially, what we were talking about before about, everything's political, and, because lots of projects, want to reach the youth in one way or another. And lots of people who are prepared to fund interactive films or sort of games, have the desire to reach the youth, and so something like this could be great. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Okay. We might just have a little. Okay, I'll just show you just a screen grab from. You guys are a lot more up to speed with the world of games than I am, I would imagine. So this may strike you as ridiculously simple. I've got the audio off, but have any of you played a Noir?
A little bit, yeah.
Right, cool. I mean, it's quite old now. It's like 10 years old or something insane like that. But it was an interesting game because it's basically all about conversations. And the gameplay mechanic um, is brilliantly simple, brilliantly simple, and it's it is a mechanic that you can rip off because it's so elemental that you can't protect such a simple thing. But you see it up here, sort of top right, top. Is that right? Left. Sorry. Oops. Forget you heard that. Okay. I do know my left and right, honestly. So basically, what happens is you're a policeman in Los Angeles in 1947 or something like that, and you're given a series of cases to solve. And the key thing with all the cases is, I mean, there's a bit of collecting evidence, which is just normal. You just move around a space and find items. So that's not particularly interesting. But the interesting bit, I thought, was this thing that when you're talking to people, you have this choice about whether the person's telling the truth, whether you doubt them, or whether they're telling a lie. And then according to the choice that you make, that will affect what your character does. So it's telling the truth, you'll just say, thank you for that, madam, and leave it at that. If it's a lie, it's, assorted, appropriate 1947 LA cop type, bad mouthing. And then doubt is a more sort of subtle thing in the middle. So it's super, super simple. It's just 3 buttons. But there's a lot of script complexity possible to generate just on those three choices. And of course, those choices are quite they're quite emotional, they're quite elemental. So it was a very successful game. Okay, now he's gone back to finding items, so this is not so interesting. So this is not real gameplay. This is like your little notebook. Sorry, this is not a gameplay video. Here we go again, truth, doubt, lie. Anyway, you get the idea. So it's very clever use of simple choice to make conversations happen. That was very successful. And so for something like the rap battle, something similar, maybe.
Yeah.
Flatter, respect, disrespect, and something else, and then there can be lots of action going on, and all they've got to do is go 1, 2, or 3, and then you can create the complexity sort of on the basis of that. Yeah. The problem that LA Noire had was that okay, this is 10 years ago, so the motion capture was not as good as it is now, but you would still have a problem. The problem is that if someone's lying, it's generally not very obvious. And so you could just see the testing problems they had, that people, witnesses would be lying, and I don't know, how am I supposed to know that the guy is lying? This game sucks because I can't tell that this person is lying. And so what they ended up doing was that if the witness told a lie, they would start to do this.
Yeah. I see that.
And then your character would go, he looks a bit suspicious, and that would be your hint that it was a lie. But anyway, it's not their fault. Limitation of the technology, but it's the kind of thing that you could do better with interactive film. Yay! Which obviously drew my attention. Okay, that's great, Jacob. Thank you. So let's push on. We'll come back to you for your end of year life changer idea. Moving on, Jocelyn, what's up? Hit us with it.
Yes. So basically, I've implemented the idea that I've already have that I want to pitch for the essay and the assignment that we have. And
But what about your idea for the conversation type one? Do you have one, or you haven't?
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay, fine, great.
It's part of the what I'm planning. It's a big plan. So basically, what I was thinking.
Okay. Jocelyn, do you mind if I have lunch while you speak? I assure you, I am gripped by what you say. Okay. Thank you. I will switch off the camera so that you're not repulsed by the sight, but I am listening intently. Okay. Right.
Okay. Perfect. So basically, I read this quote that said, one of the most dangerous things a woman can do is be in a relationship, and one of the most dangerous places for a woman to be is at home. And I was thinking about women's safety and domestic abuse and domestic violence, where there is an interaction with two girlfriends, talking about how their life is now that they moved in with their partners.
Great. Yep.
And through that, one friend discovers that there's something wrong with her friend and that she's in danger, but she doesn't really want to say it. But it's basically just teaching us how to ask people and dig a bit deeper in order for them to tell us that they actually do need help. That was my idea.
Okay. So the user, are the friend of the person who is being exploited or threatened.
Exactly.
Got it. Love it. Yep. Okay, keep going.
And I mean, I don't know. I haven't figured out everything yet because I've tried to implement it into my other idea. So I've been working a lot on that side. I don't know if you want to hear it now or later.
Now.
What did I write down? Where is it? Yeah, so basically there's a lot of red flags in the beginning of the conversation that the user, like us as players, we don't really get them because she's just talking and bubbling about how great it is to finally live with her boyfriend. And then there's questions that ask about those situations. I haven't figured out which red flags exactly yet, but there's things like isolation, control, that the partner is controlling her in terms of who she goes out with and who she meets and when she has to be at home and things like that, or that she has to frequently clean and cook for him, but he doesn't really actually do anything for the household, stuff like that. Really small things that if you hear it, you wouldn't think, oh, that's weird, but it sums up to a point where you then see the violence, and maybe she walks away and you notice a bruise on her arm, and the next question is, are you going to mention the bruise, or are you going to ignore it and let her walk away because you interrogated her already?
Right. Great.
Kind of on that level. That's
okay.
it.
Fantastic. So I'm still here. Fantastic. So this is so there's no personal safety action. There's nothing where you are this woman and you've just said that you're moving out or something and he freaks out. There's nothing like that. So this is friend talking to friend, and it's all about great. So I will send you if I can dig it up. I tried but was not able to dig up my first ever interactive film, which was the personal safety, you're attacked in a car park film. But I will try to send you another interactive film, which is more or less exactly that. So it was done by a charity called Tender, which is about trying to stop sexual violence, I think. But anyway, it's all about acting to end abuse. And I'll put it in the chat. They are nice people. Like all charities, they're ridiculously busy and have, almost no. Did that come through? Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe check them out, because you could say that, you're a writing student, you're very interested in these issues. Could they suggest any resources, something like that? And who knows, they might send you some links. Unfortunately, the thing I did was like 5 or 6 years ago. I doubt there's anyone still there who, there might be, but they are. But one of the so we workshopped some scenarios with a number of YPs, as they call them, young people, and so these YPs are all kind of challenged in various ways, so we did sort of workshopping sort of various abusive relationships, and the interesting thing was how brilliant the YPs were at making these ideas real. They were just incredible at how good their kind of abusive relationships were. But there was one, but I'm not sure if we ever did. I don't think we ever did friend to friend, an abusive guy not present. We certainly did friend to friend, an abusive guy is there. So we did one which was two friends, and the victim turns up with the boyfriend, and so that was a slightly different what do you do now type thing. And I think the final sort of call to action in ad speak was, what do we do now? And I think the final call to action was about telling your teacher. I think that was the call to action, that that's what you should do, because these is obviously school kids. So, but it's a great idea. It's an especially great idea because I mentioned to you that all the charities involved in this field hate physical self-defense. They absolutely won't touch physical self-defense. But what you're proposing, that's completely different. And I think lots of charities would love to be involved in something like that.
Yeah.
They might not give you any money for it, but that's okay. You can hook up with them, and then maybe you can go and get some money from somewhere else. But because you've got the charity involved, then you can unlock the funding, because the funder thinks, well, Jocelyn has got the expert partner who will make sure that it's all good from a point of view of what should be said, and Jocelyn's going to add the art. So yeah, great idea, love it. Jocelyn, your picture is frozen. Are you still there? Maybe not.
My internet is very bad.
Okay, just stick on.
And I turned up my camera so it would reconnect.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it works.
I just leave the camera off, Jocelyn, I'd say, because the voice by itself is working fine. Yeah, okay, fantastic, love it. And so with the conversation, what's the mechanism you were thinking of? Jacob mentioned this problem with traditional decision trees where it just kind of feels a bit clunky to go, A, B, or C. Did you have any thoughts about that?
Not completely, not yet, no.
That's the wrong answer, Jocelyn. The right answer is to say, oh, but Martin, you're Suicide Film had that sort of choices, and I thought that was so wonderful that I thought I'd use that. See, I keep giving you these like lines in, but you know, do it next time, okay? Put it in the essay so David will see it. Anyway, no, seriously.
I will.
You know, have a think about. No, but seriously. So what you could again think about is again think about L.A. Noire and this kind of truth, doubt, lie, three-way. Think about with the suicide film that a lot of the times the choice is accept or challenge. Accept or challenge. He says he's fine. Accept or challenge. You know, he says he doesn't need any help. Accept or challenge. So you could make the interaction, you know, it depends what the purpose is. Obviously, with the suicide film, the purpose is teach people as far as we possibly can how to talk to someone's suicidal feelings. So if it's not super slick, we don't really give a fuck. That's not the point. It's not like L.A. Noire, which is a commercial game where it has to be charming, and of course it has to work with a gamepad. But you know, but you might say, well, this has got to appeal to, you know, if your target audience was teenage females, you might say, well, it's got to play to teenage females. They've got to be able to play it on a phone with, you know, one thumb. And so then maybe a more stripped down kind of accept challenge might be a perfectly good mechanism. You know, but the key thing would be to make sure that it's this variety, because you always want people to get at least one question wrong. Because if they get everything right, then it's boring. They think, well, why am I not just watching a video? Because I know all this shit. So you really want to sort of make sure that, yeah, there's something they get wrong. But anyway, okay, terrific idea. Cool. Okay, moving. Anything else, Jocelyn?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, Jack.
Right.
Fire away. Is it possible for you to switch the camera on, Jack, or it's not? It's not a great thing.
No, I think I can. It's just my lighting in my room isn't very good. I've only got this one lamp on. Yeah.
It's fabulous. It's moody. It's noir. It's a homage to you know, something or other.
Something.
Some thriller of route without very much lighting. Yeah, great. Okay, fire away.
It actually kind of fits. So what I was going for is, what I was thinking in my mind is kind of an interrogation scene where you are in.
Love it already. Yes. Yep.
So you're in. So you're interrogating you're interrogating someone that's implemented in a case, and you have to try and negotiate your way into getting a confession out of this person. So you can so if they try and lie their way out, you can kind of catch them and say, wait, you said this, that doesn't quite line up with this. And if you choose wrong enough answers, he will eventually legally be able to walk out of the room, and you don't crack the case.
Great, love it. So do you have any specific ideas for actual choices or anything like that you could do?
Not really. It was just more lines of like, you know, well, this person says something to you, and then a bunch of options will come up on what you can say. So say kind of like, you know, so say he tells you a lie and it kind of conflicts with something he said earlier. You have a choice of saying something like, that doesn't line up with what you said. You said this. Why are you now telling me this? Or you can say like, all right, maybe, or you can just choose to stay quiet, or you can kind of choose to kind of play along and see if you can trick him again.
Right. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you wanted to, I mean, it's a great idea, Jack, because it's really simple to shoot. It's like we were saying before, you know, with all you need is like one empty room with one light and two actors. So it's fantastically simple setup, and it's got it's very, everyone will immediately get what the intention is. You don't need to explain anything. It's a police interrogation. We've all seen that scene in the movies a million times, which makes it a problem if it's a movie, but it's not a problem because it's an interactive film or it's a game. And now, so the twist comes not from, oh my God, how am I going to an interrogation scene in a way that hasn't already been done a million times? Well, the way you're going to make it new is because it's interactive and the user has agency within the world of the interrogation, which is great.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in taking it further, I would definitely watch some screen grab videos of LA Noire. Because I mean, does anyone who's more up to date with the world of games have other suggestions for interrogation related games? I mean, LA Noire, as I said, it's like the whole thing is an interrogation game. There are about, God, I don't know, 30, 40 interrogations in LA Noire, and they, after the first 3 or 4, you definitely get the idea. But yeah, Jacob, go ahead.
Actually, the game that Cash the Kirk has been working on, Disco Elysium, you play homicide detective as well in the game. And I would say that Disco Elysium is interesting to watch because it's also, you get to follow like the thinking of, you have a dialogue with yourself as well besides interrogating. So while you're interrogating someone, suddenly like your anxiety is the character in that game, and anxiety suddenly jumps in and starts having a dialogue and in a monologue in your head that you converse with at the same time. Not that you're supposed to do that, but it presents an interesting option, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a bit deeper than LA Noire and a bit more creative in that regard. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, those two, yeah.
So Jacob, just so I understand, so you're having a conversation with your own anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. So in the game, like you're having constant conversations with yourself inside your head, basically like we all do, like our inner thoughts, whatever they are, and how we think, basically. So you can have a dialogue with yourself and your anxiety or your anger, like all of these different emotions and states of mind are different characters inside your head talking to you. Think of almost like it's Inside Out, but it's even more complex than that. And at the center of the core, I guess you would be the soul that you converse with, that you are.
Great. Okay. So I think that sounds fascinating, and I must check this game out. The decision for you to make, Jack, is whether, if this was an idea that you wanted to, let's say, for example, you wanted to do this for your end of term thing, the decision for you to make would be, how far you wanted to go down that road of complexity.
Yeah, how complex I want it to be. Yeah.
Obviously, one of the things is one of the genius. Sorry, just bear with me. This is getting a little bit off topic, but the whole, LA Noire is a homage to the whole Sam Spade film noir sort of 1940s, 1950s genre. And one of the genius things about LA Noire is that choice, because the Sam Spade type protagonist, do you know what I mean by Sam Spade? So Sam Spade is was it Philip Marlowe? Or no, Raymond Chandler has a hero called Sam Spade. Anyway, Sam Spade is the name of one of the detectives in one of the classic sort of film noir type stories. And the thing about that genre is the detectives are not that clever on the whole. They're just like a regular guy who's good with his fists and is absolutely impossible to corrupt, but he's not Hercule Poirot. He's not Sherlock Holmes. People don't go, oh my God, Sam Spade, how did you work that one out? And he says, oh, well, I noticed that there was a, trace of ash on the car as I walked past it that, could only have come from the quarry on the other side of Los Angeles. There's none of that stuff. It's all much more straightforward, and with a lot of them, a common theme is the idea that the hero detective gets completely outthought and completely outclassed by the evil mastermind. He just can't. It's always a he, as far as I can. The ones that I've seen, So that the mastermind is smarter than the detective. The detective is a simple guy, a simple kind of working class guy, and so he just, the process of working out tends also to be quite simple, but that works very well with a lot of movies, right? Because it tends to be. There's this famous thing. One of them said, one of the authors said, Dashiell Hammett or something. When I don't know what to have, when I don't know what's going to happen next in my stories, I just have a guy walk in with a gun. And so it's that sort of thing. The hero doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know where to go. But then a guy walks in with a gun and tries to blow his brains out, but he fights him, and then he finds out who sent him, and blah, 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 blah. So with that in mind, just thinking about the very interesting Disco Elysium example, that would suggest that, if you do use the idea of an inner monologue, that could be really interesting, but it shouldn't be too complex.
Yeah.
He's just wants to do his job. He's a regular guy who wants to do his job and, have sex with the object of his desire and, not get killed by the bad person.
Right, yeah.
Though sometimes the object of desire and the bad person is the same person who's trying to kill him, as well as he's trying to have sex with them, which is another interesting twist.
That's all other topics.
If you want to examine that, then I look forward to reading your script. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so that's the brilliant thing with the LA Noire genre choice, that it's a great genre for this sort of simple 3-button type interaction. And so interrogation, fantastic. Lends itself. Now, are you aware of Her Story? Has Cash talked about Her Story?
He hasn't yet. He hasn't spoken to us about it.
So, having just said how nice and simple interrogation stories can be, let's have a little, see if we can see anything of a game called Her Story. Okay. Just share screen. Have any of you played Her Story? Aware of it?
I'm aware of it, but I haven't played it.
Okay. You bloody thing doesn't want me to share screens again. Let's see if I can trick it into. Okay, fantastic. So this is a game called Her Story. If you're interested, do talk to Cash about Her Story, because I believe last year when he was doing the whole course, not just 2 sessions, he talked about Her Story. It's an extremely unusual game. And due disclosure, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But lots of people love it, and it cleaned up at the BAFTA Games Awards in 2015, 2016, something like that. So let me describe it. So basically, the screen that you're seeing now, this is sort of like the interface. Basically, you arrive and you've got this database on this kind of crappy old computer from somewhere in Cornwall or something. And it's like an old 1998 era computer. And it's got these videos in. So it's got these clunky little videos, which were all filmed in some unthinkably distant historical era. 1994. Some of us can remember 1994, but let's not go there. Anyway, so you've got these videos, and they're like 100 of them, something like that. And they're in no particular order. They're just in a great blob. Each of them has got a time and a date stamp on it. And so when you're presented with these, you then have to work out WTF is going on. So this woman and what you're seeing is a series of police interrogations of this woman, and she is trying to, and she is talking about let's just play the trailer. I don't think I'm sharing audio. Can you hear music?
No.
Hang on a sec. Okay. Doop, 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 doop. Okay, let's watch the trailer. Hear music?
This is the third day running you've called me in. Hurt someone? You think it's murder? I'd like to speak to a lawyer now. Please. You have no murder weapon. You have nothing. And all these stories we've been telling each other, just that. Stories.
Okay, so her story, just to talk about the awards first, because it was an incredible achievement. The thing is that generally, I think this is starting to change a little bit now, but certainly if you went back like to 2005, 2010, anyone who was a gamer would hate the idea of involving live action film in anything interactive, because they still had traumatic memories of these ghastly games from the early 90s, which did this dreadful, dreadful job of trying to create interactive film-based games. The thing is that no one remembers those anymore. So the hatred has kind of gone away a bit, I think. But still, it was a huge achievement for her story to not just get nominated, but to win at least one BAFTA Games BAFTA maybe even 2 or 3, something like that, was just astonishing, because normally those guys would just like hate anything involving video. So basically it's a puzzle, and you have to put a lot of mental energy into putting in search terms, which will then bring up these videos, and then you try to piece together what's happening in the story, what's going on. So that's sort of the puzzle. So the thing is that I hate puzzles. I'm completely not interested in puzzles. So that's one reason why I hate this. Another reason I hate this is that the acting seems to me not very good. But the thing is that all these games people are so unused to having a real human being. They were all going, oh my God, this woman is incredible. Look at the range of expressions. You know, you can't even see the pixels when she moves her face. Oh, the motion capture is phenomenal. That's because it's a video. But anyway, that made it like shine out. And they just absolutely loved it. I won't start talking about what the premise is, or let alone what is the final thing that gets revealed, in case you want to have a look at it. But it's interesting because I think it became this kind of super cool indie hit, and I think and like I say, it won a lot of awards, and was talked about a great deal. But there are things like, if you discover what is actually the truth, what do you think you do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. There's no button that says, I think the answer is blah. You just play this fucking game until you think, oh, I've got it. And then presumably you get on, the internet, and you start chatting with your other super cool friends, and you tell them that you've worked it out. But so it's very, very unuser friendly from that point of view. But like I say, it was hugely successful and much beloved, which is basically unique with live action. It's an interactive film, you could say. And BAFTA has never, the games BAFTAs have never recognized an interactive film. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing, and it's all about interrogation, but there it's very, very obscure puzzle that you have to work out, and you have no control over what happens in any of the films. So you can't decide what the policeman is going to ask next. You just watch these videos which were shot 20 years ago, and you try and work out what went on. Yeah. Okay. Moving on then. So, love it, Jack. Albert, so you've already hit us with AOC. Anything else? And especially any thoughts about what you want to do for end of term?
So I just had an idea for that. I didn't have any other ideas for the end of term thing, only the AOC thing.
Okay. Because the thing is that end of term will be here sooner than you think.
I
mean, if you want to do AOC thing for end of term, I could live with that. I mean, I'm not saying, that doesn't mean that I'm guaranteeing that it will, get whatever, but, it's a clever idea. So, but just think back, Albert, to some of the other ideas that you stole from me. From going back into the past, going into my head, I'm trying to think. The ones, I mean, Jacob does this all the time. I mean, all of you do it, but just have a bit more of a think about some of the other ideas. Because I think if you did the AOC idea, I think a concern, for example, might come from David that, well, he hasn't really created the script. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has created the script, and he's just putting some buttons in it. So I think there are some of your other ideas have been more a bit more suitable for end of term type thing. But obviously it's your choice.
Yeah.
Do you want to just chew over? What have you done that I'm sure there's been at least one where I've said, Albert, you bastard, I pitched that idea 2 years ago and I didn't get anywhere with it, but it's a great idea. So just try and recall which that was, because I mean that might be a good place to start.
Well, I was actually like, because I was coming up with an idea for the exercise, and I actually quite liked it. I liked it quite a lot. So I was actually considering doing this idea that I have now, but I wasn't sure if we could do. It was an interactive interview. I went the opposite route to these guys, but I wasn't sure if I could do that for final project or not.
Sure, why not?
Okay, yeah. So should I just give the idea then, or?
That's right. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, it's not especially complicated. It's just an interactive interview. But I was thinking about like who I would like to have that interactive interview with. Like, who would I be interested in seeing? Yep. And right now, obviously, I'm like really into politics at the moment. That's just my thing right now. I go through phases. Sometimes I'm into it.
I think that's fantastic. The whole world is really into politics now. So, yes, yep.
And so, like, obviously, financially, this idea is not feasible. But, in the world where I get to do what I want to do, I was like, it would be really interesting to have an interactive interview with former President Barack Obama. And essentially, I was thinking about like lots of different things. But one of the things I was thinking about was on YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube. Vanity Fair do this thing where it's like in a day, and the celebrity goes through their day from like waking up till night. And I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking about Obama, and I was like, what the hell does a president actually do in a day? I actually have like no idea. And so like, because like with the start of your interactive interview, there were like multiple options. So the first one was like, in my head would be, what does a president do in a day? And then he kind of goes through his day, but like asking you questions that seem relatively mundane, but are actually like have like significance to them.
So I think that's a great. One thing I would suggest is make it that he's asking you questions, and you have to answer him, and then he responds to your response.
Yeah.
So that way you get far more value out of him. So if it's like here where you click, tell me what you do in your day, Barack Obama, press button, and then I'll just go blah 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 blah.
Oh no, I was thinking it was like how your one was.
So just swap it around. He asks you, what do you think I do in my day? And then you have 3 options, and they should all be plausible. Because what you're trying to do is to try and get people to really think about what the president does. And so then it's tricky. It's not like 2 shit answers and 1 obviously right answer. They're all possible. But yeah, sorry, Albert, I interrupted. Yep.
No, that's fine. So yeah, no, what I meant by that was like, I was when I was watching the trailer of yours, there were like different topics to talk about. So the end of the day was the first topic. And then he's asking you questions as he goes along. He's like, okay, well, breakfast, blah, blah, blah. And then I go off to the like read this daily briefing or whatever. And then he'll ask you a question about that. Like, I don't know, how long do I spend on daily briefing, or how many pages do I have to read or something? I don't know. I have no idea about these things. I need to like research more.
Well, that's one key thing, because always with this sort of thing, research is just like super useful, and what you're always looking for is the surprising answer. So with McKellen, for example, I trawled through every interview I could find that McKellen gave about Shakespeare or his acting or whatever, and I'm always looking for the slightly surprising thing, or the very surprising thing, and that, because that's when you get answers which, and then you just turn that round. So if McKellen says, there's a clear link between Shakespeare and a film like Lord of the Rings. So, well, that's not wildly surprising, but it's not, it's somewhat notable. A lot of Shakespeare fans would not immediately have said that Lord of the Rings and Shakespeare had a lot in common, but here's a guy who knows an awful lot about both of them, and he says that they do. So then you just turn that around, and what do you think? Is there a link between, well, or to quote Sir Ian, well, now, what do you think? Is there a link between Shakespeare and modern stories on film, say, like Lord of the Rings or X-Men? Yes or no? And then you click no, and he goes, oh, I don't agree with you. Shakespeare's a marvelous storyteller, and so is Lord of the Rings, and blah, 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 blah. If you click yes, you say, yes. Yes, you ask anyone who writes screenplays or plays, they've always got Shakespeare looking over their shoulder, and that's because he did it so well and with such integrity and such enthusiasm, and blah 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 blah. So you just take something he said, flip it round. So I'd say if you want to do Barack Obama for your end of term thing, spend half an hour looking through Barack Obama interviews, and you're looking for the surprising thing. And because that's what you can then put as your example questions, which will make people go, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know Barack Obama thought that. That shows that how you can build intrigue and, get people really getting into this stuff. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Great. We're starting to run out of time. Jacob, end of term idea. So you're muted, Jacob.
Right, sorry, yeah. So I have two ideas that I'm in between a little bit. One of them is for a video game, and the second one is for interactive film. So I could start with the video game.
I hate the video game idea already. But the interactive video game sounds really good.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm joking. Okay.
But yeah,
Go
video
ahead.
game is basically to make a racing game, like a sci-fi racing game. Imagine like Wipeout or like those things in Star Wars type of thing. We have like a pod race type of thing. And with the sci-fi aspect, you can sort of create a story that's very satirical about like how like corrupt and capitalistic how racing has always been that in a sort of way. And as a racer, you have choices you can make both on the track while racing and outside of the track, like interviews at nightclubs, at sponsorships, whatever it is. Like both of those different worlds, the racing track and everything outside of it, affect each other differently. So I presented like one choice as an example, which I can send again. Let's see. And that is that you're about to go on to like the final race in a tournament, and then suddenly a big potential sponsor wants you to finish second or last for that matter, but whatever you do, you can't finish first in the race that's about to come, because they want their sponsored racer to finish. But they promise you that if you do finish second or last, you get sponsored, which equals more money, which equals better racer, better speeder, which means that you can win the next tournament way more easily, which admits you to the Grand Prix of this sci-fi racing world, you could say. But you could also ignore them and finish first if you're good enough and you choose to ignore that. And that will grant you to get immediately to the Grand Prix, as an example. But the competition will be way more fierce now, because you have these sponsors against you suddenly, and that affects the racing differently, because like those who are sponsored by the racers who are sponsored by these guys will be way more aggressive towards you on the track, as an example.
And what about you getting killed or tortured if you throw the race?
Yeah, and I've thought about that as well. Like you could involve like mob stuff and things like that as well. I mean,
if you want to follow that particular thing, the book, not the film, of Diamonds Are Forever has a famous scene where, well, I don't know if it's famous, but I remember it, where one of James Bond's friends bribes, through a mixture of threats and bribes, manages to get a jockey to throw a race, which the mob has told the jockey that he must win, and the mob has a lot of money riding on the race. And so there's this scene where the hitmen for the mob come along and sort of pour boiling mud on this jockey after the race. Surprisingly, they don't kill him, but anyway, there you go. It was a more innocent age, I suppose. But anyways, I'm sure there'll be plenty of other examples. But yeah, so you could certainly like sex up the threat by having it that the nice thing with this James Bond choice was that the jockey had committed some crimes, so he was damned if he did and damned if he didn't. So if he told this guy to go stuff himself and won the race, the mob would be happy, but he'd be in jail. But as it was, he said, okay, I will throw the race, I'll accept your money, that means I won't go to jail, but the mob wants to kill me. So that would be a nice dilemma. Yeah. Okay, cool.
That's, well, like obviously it would become more complex as the story progresses with you as a racer as well.
Okay.
But that was just an example of the choice you could make, like on the track as well as like beyond the track.
Right. Okay.
But
fine.
Then for
Okay.
my second idea, sorry, what were you saying?
Yep. Go ahead.
My second idea is basically a demonstration declared riot simulation, because, well, that's what we've seen quite a lot recently. A simulation, or like an interactive film where a demonstration becomes declared a riot. You're a demonstrator in a demonstration, and it becomes declared a riot.
Right.
And you make several choices throughout that when that happens, when the police attack and deploy things and beat you up and whatnot. And depending on what choices you make, you can get arrested or not. And then towards the end of the film, you see all the choices you made and which ones that got you arrested and which ones that didn't. Sort of in a way to not necessarily tell you that you can't do this, because obviously, like a lot of police force around the world right now becoming increasingly violent and militarized, it's more of a sense of like, how can I fight back peacefully without getting arrested? Or you can choose to ignore that as an example. Like a choice that I picked as an example is that this demonstration becomes a riot, or it's declared a riot. It's declared a riot by the police, which makes them deploy tear gas into and you have a mask that you put on, but your friend hasn't, and your friend, along with a bunch of others, get caught in this tear gas. And that presents you with three different options then. What you could do is that you could immediately run to the origin of the tear gas and throw it back at the police. Throw it back at the police, which a lot of protesters have done. But the problem with that is declared a violent crime, ironically enough, even though the police are like shooting it through a fucking grenade launcher nowadays. So you can actually get arrested and actually sent to prison for doing that. and you can also grab and use a leaf blower that's on the ground, because a lot of protesters have been using that, and that is actually not considered illegal. Or you can grab your friend and just run away from tear gas. But if you go with the other two choices, like throwing back the tear gas or and grab and use the leaf blower on the ground, either way, after you're finished with that, you will grab your friend and run away. And with those two other choices, that will give an opportunity for other persons caught in the tear gas to come along with you. And one of those has milk, which is used quite a lot to clear away any tear gas caught in a person's face, or eyes, which they will use to help your friend, as an example. So that's,
you're going to use milk?
Yeah, milk.
Anti-animal bastard.
Milk is actually very good. Is actually good at washing out tear gas.
What about the calves? Okay. What country does this happen? Is this set in?
I was thinking the US.
Okay, so it's in the context of BLM. So it's like Portland, or somewhere like that.
Portland, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So whatever you want to do is obviously your choice, and I look forward eagerly to seeing what you choose to do. I would humbly suggest that this concept, while intriguing, has got a number of issues. One issue is that think about correct me if I'm wrong, and this is where you're going to hate me forever if I have got this wrong, but did you not have an example about a negotiator game?
Hostage
situation.
Yeah.
You see, oh, Christ for that. Okay, fine. So that was a genius idea for an interactive film or for a game, because it's immediately obvious what the aim is. We've all seen that scene in a movie. We all know what we've got to do. We've obviously got to get the hostages out, is like number one thing, and you have to, and maybe or maybe not. It's up to you. Do you want to kill the hostage taker? Probably not, but that's a lesser consideration. And then there's all sorts of little tips and tricks you've got. So that's one great thing about that brilliant idea. Another thing about that brilliant idea is it's simple. It's one room with a crazy guy walking around, or maybe it's like one shop or something, one office, but it's a very locked off location. So whether it's a game or a film, everyone loves that. And you need like some cop cars out the front, but that's static, because you arrive as the negotiator, things are already in place. There's no car chases. It's all very, very focused. And so for a low budget film or a low budget game, those are all great things about that idea. Contrast the intriguing demonstration idea, so one thing is a location. Oh my God, it's a fucking nightmare, because you've got a street, you've got people running around, you've presumably got to keep moving, so it's not just a bit of a street, but like, and this is the thing, I mean, every 10 meters of street, that's another 5% of budget, because that means that's that much more street that you have to build in your game, or that much more street that you have to lock off and film and blah blah blah. So that's one thing. A more fundamental concern I would have, though, is what have I got to do in this demonstration? Because obviously my ultimate aim is to change the government. That's my, let's say I'm a Portland demonstrator, I'm marching with BLM, and I want Trump out, say. Well, lots of people would say that one of Trump's biggest allies were the protests, because if you looked at Fox News in the run up to the elections, there was endless pictures of chaos, broken glass, fire. This is what the Democrats will give you. So was this demonstrating attacking Trump, or was it just like self-expression? Interesting question. But the problem is, well, if you make that a choice for your game, then that's a very interesting choice. But that may not be a satisfying choice for people to make. I mean, then another question is, as you know, I did that climate film, and so I spent a lot of time with people who believe in nonviolent direct action, where the point is to get arrested. And this happens in America as well. But it's non-violent, so that it's not a running battle with the police and then they kind of drag you off. You, as you know, I mean, you super glue yourself to a tube train, or you put a boat in the middle of Oxford Circus and you all handcuff yourself to it. So it's completely non-violent. And a fascinating thing is the work that Extinction Rebellion do to keep their non-violent protests non-violent, and the energy they put into relations with the police, to keep things friendly. Because if we're going to be arrested, we want no one to get hurt, and it's incredibly effective as a tactic. That was, but arrestability was fundamental to the original concept of Extinction Rebellion. If you look, if you're interested, there's a book that they wrote about why they set up Extinction Rebellion, and their key belief was it must have actions for which people would get arrested, because if no one's getting arrested, there's no sacrifice, so no one gives a shit. But if you've got TV cameras showing grandmothers getting led off in handcuffs, people pay attention. That is their theory. I mean, for you to accept or not, but that is their theory. So there you've got a demonstration where they have a very clear and carefully worked out aim, which is indeed to change government policy with regard to the environment. And their strategy is non-violent direct action, which must be arrestable. And so that's the way they do it. And now, from a game point of view, something like that, it doesn't have the kind of kinetic action, obviously, that a running battle does, but it does. I don't know. Anyway, but sorry, the reason I went off on that tangent was because you were talking about important not to get arrested. Now, that's true.
But it's not really important. I wouldn't say it's like a bad ending to get arrested, rather than I was thinking the film would be as to inform what can get you arrested in a riot or in a demonstration that does become a riot.
But again, so Jacob, because I care,
yeah.
Okay, so it's easy for me to just say, yes, that's a fantastic idea, Jacob. So because I care, do we really need to know that? I mean, in a Portland type situation, basically if you're there and there are people running around, smashing windows, setting cars on fire, you're liable to be arrested. I mean, it doesn't take it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that out, which may or may not be fair, but they're just going to grab everyone. So the reason that I'm saying that is because I'm trying to get to what the fundamental point of that element of the game is. And all I'm saying is that showing me what can get me arrested is tricky. Now, by contrast, if it was Hong Kong, then you have a different environment. So there you have a situation where if you get arrested, you may be killed. Perfectly possible. If you're not arrested, you may be disappeared. It's happening to lots and lots of these protesters. Where the fuck are they? Are they alive? Are they dead? No one knows. Have they been stuck on a train and shipped out to, the Xinjiang desert? No one knows. They've vanished. So you must not get arrested. That's all there is to it. You must not. life or death, you must not get arrested. So are you going to demonstrate? Well, then that becomes a life or death question, and a lot of them are saying yes. But then there are interesting tactics. For example, I was having a conversation with a Hong Kong protester, and a friend of mine had a phone, one of those, those kind of cheap iPhones with a green, remember there's iPhone S or C or something, which had this bright green thing. And he was saying, oh, you would never carry that phone in a demonstration in Hong Kong because it's too identifiable. Because when they're looking at their 4K video of the riot or the demonstration, they will be looking for any identifying feature, and you've covered your face and you've covered everything, but you're being given away because you've got this distinctive phone. So it's things like that. And there, of course, you've got a true dystopian nightmare situation where China, is basically deciding that democracy in Hong Kong is over. It's, all this one country, two systems, forget that. It's one country, one system. You guys are all going to shut up and do what we say, or you're going to be arrested / killed. And so then, but also the genius ingenuity of the Hong Kong protesters, which is, from what I saw, is not remotely matched in Portland. Have you seen their chains? That they had these incredible human chains passing, like hundreds of people in a line, all passing supplies along the chain. I mean, amazing. And the what they did with tear gas canisters with traffic cones. Did you see that? So if there's a tear gas canister, they would have these like little tear gas teams using traffic cones, and one would run in, put a traffic cone over the canister, and then they pour liquid into the traffic cone to kill the tear gas. I mean, genius. So much cleverer than grab it and throw it back. Now, of course, will you be arrested? Hell yes. There's not like the Hong Kong police are going to let you go because you had this cute traffic cone idea. But anyway, I digress. So the only thing I would say is, if that's what you want to do, Jacob, that's a beautiful thing. But I would humbly suggest that something like your hostage negotiator idea, immediately it's got all the elements. I know what I've got to do. I know how to win this game. I know what it looks like if I lose this game. You've got a tight, clearly defined location. Where is it? Well, who gives a fuck? It could be anywhere. It could be America, it could be here, it could be in China. That's okay because this is not as political. Well, he might be a political protester, but it's an archetypal situation that we immediately understand. So you don't need to burn up energy explaining it. Yeah. But anyway, it's completely up to you. And also, look, I remember that idea from 3 weeks ago or something like that, which is another good sign. Yeah.
Cool.
Anything else?
Not really. No, those are the two ideas that I have. I'm not sure.
So anything else from anybody else? Jack, are you right back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Jack, did you have any thoughts for your end of term idea?
I think I'm just going to use this interrogation idea for my final project.
Cool. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Can I ask you guys a favor?
Yes.
You can ask, they thought.
Depends on the
all right. So I need you to be extras in a trailer that I'm making. Jocelyn has actually already been cast in this trailer. It's a trailer for the Climate Interactive film. What I need is some people to watch the screen, and then when I put into the paste it into the chat, you can all say 2 degrees, as if you were answering one of the questions in the climate film where we ask how much hotter is the world now. Then Jocelyn, when I put into the chat, please say 1 degree and laugh. Jacob's told me what a brilliant actress you are, so I have great confidence that you will be able to do this. Then all of you say 1 degree. Again, I'll put this into the chat one by one, so just say it when it goes in the chat. then political system change, then Jocelyn, if you can say technocratic solutions, and then that's it. Yeah, I'm counting on you. And also your end of term mark, 50% of it will go on the quality. No pressure at all. But yes. So Jack, seriously, none of you have to do this if you don't want to. But if you wouldn't mind, I would be eternally grateful. I will switch my camera off, and I will also switch my microphone off so that I don't mess up your performance with my voice jabbering on in the background. So when you're not saying something, so Jocelyn started off excellently by leaving the room. Go ahead, Jacob.
One more thing. I'm thinking about Albert's shirt right now, with the brand. Could that be a
Oh,
problem?
full marks to Jacob. Could you just put something? Yes. So if you had anything.
Yeah, with jumper.
If you wouldn't mind, Albert, Jacob, I'm in awe of your attention to detail.
I've been there before. So.
Right. And so when you're not saying things, please, if you wouldn't mind, just keep looking at the screen like you're watching the climate video. Okay, we're already recording. Okay, so please start watching the screen. I will go on mute and I will paste the things in bit by bit. Okie doke. So the first thing will be in about 10 seconds.
Two degrees.
2 degrees.
Oh, whoops.
1 degree.
Hang on, sorry, total chaos. Albert screwed it all up for us. So don't read the thing that's already written here. I'll delete it. Just read the things out when I paste them in the chat.
Okay.
And if you don't get it, just say it a bit after everybody. Yep. Okay. So looking at the screen, thank you, folks. I'll go on mute.
Two degrees.
2 degrees.
1 degree.
1 degree.
1 degree.
Degree.
Political
Political
system change.
Technocratic solutions.
Two degrees.
2 degrees.
Please.
1 degree.
1 degree.
1 degree. Political system change.
Change. Technocratic solutions.
Great. Okay, thank you very much for your time. That's beautiful. You've all got mega bonus points. Fantastic. All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if anyone wants to talk further about your end of term things, just send us an email and we can arrange time to talk. Yeah, but I think you've all got some great projects. Jacob, except you. I mean, with that live action thing, with the riot, I think you've had some much more convincing ideas, and so I would just humbly suggest that if you maybe consider some of those other ideas. Yes. Something I've always wanted to say to you, don't worry, this is not, is because another one of your ideas, which you see, I remember, is, if it was your idea, did you not have the idea of what to do in a mass shooter?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, yeah, school shooting.
You see, I remember your ideas better than you do. Okay, so the thing about that idea, which was a problem, which might indeed be a problem with your riot idea, is so I was involved with a production company and they loved the idea of a live action game which was about what to do in a mass shooter event. They thought it was great. Then they started shopping it around kind of games professionals and they hated it because they said that any blurring of the boundary between sort of game and real life in that way is incredibly risky, because then suddenly you're on the 6 o'clock news and Hillary Clinton is talking about, you've made this game where you are a shooter. And then it's not just the failure of the game, but the whole company can get destroyed. So with Rockstar Games, and remember one of the Grand Theft Autos, do you remember the hot coffee mod?
Yeah, San Andreas. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like a gigantic problem for Rockstar Games. And they said that the risk with the school shooter survivor, even though you were never going to be the guy with the gun, you were always going to be the victim. But they said it's just too close to life. Do something about World War II. Do something about, zombies. Then no one, it's fine. You can make your game and everyone's happy. But this kind of close intermingling of games and guns and a real problem becomes much too dangerous politically for the game's publishers, for the platforms, and yada, yada, yada. So I just had always wanted to say that to you. It might possibly, I don't know about I think you might have a similar sort of thing. Sorry, I promised to stop dumping on your brilliant idea about the riot. And of course, you'll have your revenge, right? When you'll do this next year, and it'll be this huge smash hit, and you'll say, oh, this fucking tutor I had was like, oh, Jacob, it's too boring. It's too complex. No one will get it, and everyone will laugh, and I will cry. But yeah, so you might possibly have a similar issue with that, there's a riot game and you can and so on, so forth. Anyway, okay, but fine. So if there's anything else, feel free to hang on after the call. But like I say, give us an email if you want to talk about your ideas, and see you next time.
Cool.
When's our next class?
You expect you remember that sort of thing. The next one is a cash session. Okay. This is where, what do you say?
On the 24th.
Oh, what a shame.
Oh, no, exactly. Good. Mega marks. Okay, yeah. So sorry, everybody. It's a cash session. And then I think I'm...
4th of December.
Thank you. You see?
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Thanks very much, guys. Take care.
Great.
Have a good evening.
Bye. Thanks, Jocelyn.
Thank you.